In this episode of Marty Car Mods, we are working on the Mira.
Kiwi fruit. That's the weirdest, you know when you eat a kiwi fruit. Anyway, yeah, we're working on the Mira and it's going to run again this episode, like all the other ones, except this time it actually will. Welcome to another episode of Mighty Car Mods. The Mira has been an almighty adventure of magnitude on a minuscule scale.
That's right. So we've been working on the 350Z and now we're working on the big dirty Hatsu.
Yes, that's right, Martin. Z and Z. Let's not even get there. Most of the English word world says they pronounce it as Z.
Like Zorro.
Because I think it comes from the Greek word zeta or something. But I'll be corrected.
Shout out to our friends in Greece.
Yes, so shout out to you. Anyway, Martin, what's going on this time? We're getting this little Mira going.
So last time you saw it, it was running on Aerostart, which is petrol in a can. But we couldn't actually get the car to run under its own juice. So today we're going to get the car running under its own juice. We're going to try and put it back together, see if we can drive it, check to make sure all our welding and our parts are in the right place, and then take it for a drive.
That's awesome. We've got Mechanical Stig, of course, coming to say good day and help with his thunderous hands of pleasure. And I'm really excited. Do you know why? Because I have a date with car sales. So I will be back shortly, but I will be back very, very soon, Martin. But good luck with that. And hopefully by the time you see me, I'll have something a little bit special for you. You know it.
The last time you went on car sales, that didn't end so well. And then it did, because it had an off. So last time we saw the Mira, it was cranking. It was running just on some Aerostart, which is like petrol in a can that you're spraying stuff to make it work. Smells mad. But what we think is we're not getting fuel. And Benny, why do you think that is?
Well, we're getting fuel to the manifold, but I think probably the injectors are gummed up from sitting around. So we've checked, we've got fuel pressure at the filter. Yep. And then there's only a piece of hose 300 mil long from the filter to the manifold. So it's pretty safe to say there's fuel all the way there. Yep. But I reckon just from being sitting for so long, the injectors themselves are just gummed up, which is I've seen in half cuts before. So yeah, we're talking a couple of years. So what can we do? Like, what are some tricks? Well, the proper way to do it is actually remove the injectors and put them in like an ultrasonic bath or something.
Which we can do.
We can do that if the first tricks don't work. So we'll pull the cooler off, and then while cranking it, more or less just tap the injectors to try and break the seal. Yep. That generally works. But yeah, worst case, we can pull them out and try and force drive them in petrol or a cleaning solution.
So when the fuel dries on the end of the injector, that little pintle thing, does it sort of act like glue and stick the needle in there?
It's not necessarily the fuel itself. Sometimes it's more like the carbon and gunk, normally in the plenum. Oh, yeah. Whereas normally the fuel will wash that away from driving the car normally. But that'll just build up on the end of the injector and can stick it shut. Mad.
So we're going to crank it, make sure we've got fuel pressure, pull the cooler off because it doesn't need to be there for this.
It's a map-based ECU, so it doesn't actually need an airflow meter or anything to make it run. It'll run fine with the cooler off.
Cool. And if we can get the injectors to do their thing in place, that's mad. We have to pull them out. And if they're still not working and we know we've got fuel pressure, we pull them out, clean and put them back in.
Exactly.
Mad. Let's do it.
First, the tiny top mount intercooler needs to come off so we can get access to the injectors. We're going to give them a few love taps to see if it helps unstick them before we go as far as removing them completely. To confirm we have fuel pressure, we're teeing in a GFB fuel pressure gauge.
Benny, so we have fuel pressure gauge?
Yep.
You're confident we have fuel pressure?
100%.
Shimingid the injectors?
Give them a bit of love, yeah.
Give them some love. Let's start it.
Let's give it a hit.
Run on your own juice. Come on, Mira. Come on. On your own petrol.
Yeah, it's still got pressure.
Yes. It's so quiet. Straight pipe. Unreal. Mad. It works. So,
Sweet.
Cooling system, wheels.
Yep, pretty much. Put the cooler back on, fit a few other bits we had to move.
Yeah.
Take the fuel pressure gauge back off.
Let's do it. I'm pumped.
I'm in.
It's time to put some coolant into the Mira, which is pretty exciting. I've got this spill-free funnel atténuateur anti-diversement spill-free embudo spill-free. Benny refers to these as a funnel bucket, which I think is a way better word for it. And the idea is that you use this little adapter, which you put on the radiator, and then this thing goes into the top of it, and then you've got a plug. And the idea is that you can fill that up. It means you're not going to spill stuff everywhere. And then when you're done, you can jam that in, which blocks it and pull it off. It also has the added benefit of adding a whole lot of extra head and pressure so that when you're trying to bleed air out of it, it just works better than doing it that. It's way less spill free. So this, total winner. Drink your first taste of Australian water. So Benny, we have a cooling system. Our cooler's back on. It's got all the fluids that it needs. We're ready to actually start it and run it a bit now.
Let's start it and we'll bleed the cooling system.
We've got to keep an eye for big bubbles, airlocks, temperature, get everything hot.
Yeah,
make sure nothing's
just
leaking
make sure
out.
the fan cycles. I mean, if it boils over before the fan cycles, generally either the fan's not working or there's a big airlock in the motor. But
yep.
We'll try and catch that pretty early.
Cool.
Good thing about this being clear is we'll be able to see what it's doing without having to look into it.
So we can actually run it. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Gauges work.
A few stabs of the throttle gets the water pump spinning to help eject any air bubbles. Next, we can top up the whole cooling system and then heat cycle the engine a few times to make sure the fans kick in. We can also check that our heater works.
Our fuel neck filler hose thing that connects the fuel filler hard line to the actual tank. The one from Japan was chopped and the Australian one didn't look like it was right, or more likely I just forgot about it and accidentally chucked it when I chucked the tank because the tank was rubbish. But Benny's got us this one, which is actually from a Toyota 86. So yet another Toyota part going into the car, and this is just about the right shape. I'm just going to have to cut it down a little bit, but it means that we can get petrol into the Mira, which is very important.
It's important to use hose that is suitable for the kind of liquid that you're going to put through it. Radiator hoses, although the same size as this one, won't last with petrol sloshing around inside them. I'm going to change out the fluids so I can keep track of their lifespan, as I've got zero service history from the JDM car. Next, I can plug in the door looms, which means power windows on both sides.
The next thing we're going to do is kind of the most important one. It can only be made possible by changing that rear floor, and that is to check if the all-wheel drive system works. We've put coolant in it, we've run it up to temp, we know that the fan works, we know it's got fresh oil in there, we know the diff's got fresh oil in it. The transfer case is still a bit of a mystery. We don't know how any of that works. There's a random vacuum line hanging out of it and this vacuum reservoir, no idea what that does. So now that we know it'll run and idle, we're going to start it, let it idle, slowly let off the clutch and see which wheels turn. It is the moment of all-wheel drive truth. You ready, Benny?
Let's do it.
Do it. Start her up. I saw something move. Front wheels are turning. Off the clutch. Back wheels are turning.
Yeah, man.
All driving this, dude.
The Mira now runs on its own juice. It has a gut full of coolant and is spinning both the front and the rear hubs. It's now time to start piecing it back together so it looks like a car again, ready for its maiden voyage.
Now it's time to get the rear bar, front bar guards and bonnet back on the car so it starts to look like a Mira again. We're getting very, very close to sticking some wheels on this thing, dropping it on the ground and seeing if it moves.
these cars would have been pumped out of the Daihatsu factory fast, and putting this one back together now, it's easy to see how they did it. The least amount of hardware is used to get the job done, with just a handful of nuts and bolts holding the bumpers, headlights, guards, and bonnet on the body. Our bonnet is a little bit worse for wear, having copped a whole lot of snow and salt from its previous life in Hokkaido. It will require some repairs, or it'll need to be replaced entirely with one shipped out from Japan. With the bonnet on, it's now time to address the small issue of the dirty Toyota Yaris springs in the back of my car.
Yeah, nah.
I've got my hands on a set of springs especially for an all-wheel drive Mira. I can then install the rubber spring seats that I got from Rob in Japan. The springs can then be slotted in between the axle and the body.
So when we put the springs and shocks in, we recycled the ones that came on, I think, the Australian Mira, which is the strut tops. They're a little bit cruddy, a little bit of dirt in them, very well used, lots of Ks. So what I've done is, I've got one of these, which has come from Malaysia, and it's from a later model Daihatsu. I don't know if it's a Mira or a Charade or a Malaysian version of that.
Because Malaysia's the other country that loves these cars.
Well, they still have them. That's the other thing. They've kept them going when Japan's moved on. But what's cool about these is they have bearings in them. So it means rather than just it sitting on a flat bit of plastic and sort of wearing away, it's got an actual bearing in there. It's just newer and it's a bit madder, and because this car is mad, then I feel like it needs these bits. I am going to put the new springs in the front as well, just so it's a match set. They'll probably be alright as they are, but I'd rather use the 4 of them. So I have to take the springs, well, I have to take these off anyway, which is a perfect time to put the new springs in. So shock out, spring on, new strut top in, back in, wheel alignment. So our shocks are out. That's got our original RSR spring that we put on in Japan, and then I get onto these new shocks, but it does have the old strut top, and this is one we've put on the other side, which has the ball bearing in it. And you can see, it might be kind of hard to tell, but there's a lot of, like, that's how much that's being stopped when you try and turn it, versus that, which you can probably turn with
This one just says free play.
The mystery control box that we found under the dash turned out to be the controller for the electric power steering. Electric power steering makes the weight of the steering really light when you're going slow and makes it heavier as you pick up speed. If it still works today, the strut top should make it even smoother.
Alright, so the car is down off the jack stands. It's now time to get a wheel alignment because currently it'll probably drive sideways, but I got to drive it down the alignment shock. So it's going to be the inaugural first drive.
Very, very exciting times, Martin. It's so exciting. In fact, I've got something very hard in my pants.
In your pants?
It's getting harder as we speak.
That's more information than I'm ever going to need about what's in your pants. But dude, it's going to do its first
I have
drive.
something really hard in my pants.
Okay.
Can you get it out? It's a gift, Martin. There's a big, hard gift in my pants for you. Here you go. Reach right in there, man.
Really?
Yeah.
This is super awkward, man.
That's it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh no, hairy leg.
Oh no.
Hairy leg.
Martin, you're going to love it though.
Oh, dude. Yes. Are they legit plates or are they fakes?
No, they're real. They're like
real
legal.
ones. Did you get me real plates?
You can put them on the car and drive, Martin.
That's amazing. Yeah, dude.
Let's put them on, Martin.
That is so cool.
I want to come for the first drive, Martin.
You might have to clear out some space. It's full of parts.
Oh, that's all right.
You should. Are you locked out? Yeah. Because this car's full of stuff, man. It's my parts bin. There you go. No central locking yet.
Is this legit the first time it's going to be driven on the road?
This is the first time it's going to get driven on the road. It needed plates. But it needs a wheel alignment before I can drive it very far. So I've got to do that straight away. And it really needs an exhaust, but I want to be able to drive it first.
Oh yeah, it's got no exhaust, does it?
No. 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 Maybe these can just come out, or are you going to sit on them?
Awesome.
So roomy. Alright, here we go.
Wait a sec.
We're neutraled.
I can't. Oh, that's just the way it's going to be. Hold on.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Feel the power.
I'll take that, Martin. Got no exhaust, it's not even that loud.
What a car.
What a piece of shit.
Shut up. This is awesome. I'm going to chop your Mini. Not soon, but it will one day. It will one day.
Oh,
One day this thing's going to be whizzing past you on like 30 pounds of boost, man. Bah, bah, bah. It's just nothing's aligned, so everything's a bit out, like things knock and yeah, it all needs to be like, yeah, checked and then it will align properly before I drive it any distance. But it moves, it works. It's all driving as we speak, which is pretty cool.
it's pretty cool.
I hate those sounds. What a car though. It works, man.
It's pretty good, man. Well done.
Thank you for your help.
100 meters and it works.
The wheel alignment is particularly important as the entire car has been in pieces and reassembled with a welder. We need to check that the back wheels attached to the JDM floor pan follow the front wheels from the Aussie car perfectly when the car is pointed in a straight line. This can be adjusted somewhat using the panhard rod that we customised. The rest of the suspension is pretty basic and luckily for us, it's passed with flying colours.
So on the way back from the tyre shop, I heard a really bad noise. It's like a scraping, grinding, bad noise. So I put it up on the stand again. I just want to drive it sort of stationary and see if I can figure out where it's coming from. So I'll put it in gear, second will do. There it is. It's a little bit of noise from the back, but I think that's just like the usual sort of rubbing sounds. Underneath, come with us, spotted here. And that right there has been pushed in against the actual drive shaft. It's the simplest thing, it's just rubbing. Which is awesome, because that's really easy to fix. Way easier than like a busted transfer case or something. Fixed. Yeah. Noise is gone.
The car is back together, the all-wheel drive system works, it's got plates, the wheels are aligned and the car is almost ready for its maiden voyage. Next time on Mighty Car Mods, I'm going to make an exhaust, get the Mira out onto the highway and visit a tall friend with a dyno to see if all the work has been worth it. And importantly, find out how much power it makes.